In mythology, her name is a curse whispered in fear, the name of a monster etched in stone and sorrow. A creature whose very gaze was a weapon, turning the warmth of flesh and blood to cold, silent stone. But behind every monster, there is a story. And hers did not begin in darkness, but in divine golden light. What if the truth lies not in monstrous acts, but in a single sacred vow, in a moment of profound betrayal? This is the story of Medusa, not the monster, but the victim. Our story begins in the golden age of Athens, a city gleaming under the watchful eyes of its patron gods. And here, in the heart of that shimmering city, lived a maiden whose piety was as renowned as her beauty, Medusa. As head priestess, her every waking moment was a ritual of devotion to the goddess of wisdom, Athena. She had vowed to serve the goddess for all her days, a promise made in utter, unwavering adoration. From her sacred perch, she watched over the city she loved, and its people loved her in return. Her beauty was said to be a gift from the gods themselves, a divine reflection on earth. But all worldly praise was meaningless, for her heart, her vow, her entire being belonged only to Athena. She was untouchable, a sacred vessel in a world of men, or so she believed. But such beauty, seen from afar, can be coveted by those with power, an envy as vast as the sea itself. For that ominous storm had a name and a will of its own, Poseidon, the god of the sea. His desire was a force of nature, and that night he had come to claim what was not his. Alone in the cavernous silence of her sacred home, Medusa performed her final nightly rituals, unaware she was being watched. A sudden, salty wind snuffed out the candles and threw open the doors to a nightmare. It was not a man who stood before her. It was a god. And in his eyes she saw not divinity, but possession. And there, on the hallowed ground of his own niece's temple, Poseidon committed the ultimate desecration. The cold marble of the goddess's statue bore silent witness to the violation of her most devout follower. But what is devotion to a god who will not listen? Her desperate prayers for help went entirely unanswered. A presence did arrive, not with comfort, but with a cold, divine fury that shook the temple to its foundations. Athena had come, not to save, but to punish, not to console, but to condemn. And her legendary wisdom saw no crime in her uncle's lust, only a stain on her own temple's purity. "You!" the goddess roared, her voice echoing with cosmic power, "have defiled my sacred space." In that moment, she understood. The crime was hers, the shame was hers, and the punishment would be hers alone. The goddess's curse was swift and cruel beyond mortal imagination. The punishment began with her beauty. Her glorious hair, once her pride, became a nest of hissing, venomous vipers, a crown of horror. Her soft skin, once praised by poets, hardened into a shell as cold, and lifeless as stone. But the final, most terrible gift from Athena was her gaze, a curse to turn all living things to stone, a power to create silence, to make a world of lonely, lifeless monuments to her despair. The victim had been erased, the monster had been born, and she was cast out, banished from the world of gods and men. She was exiled to a cursed island at the edge of the world, a prison where the sun never truly shone. Here, her curse continued its grim work. Men came seeking glory, and instead found an eternity of stone. Every statue was a testament to her isolation, a new layer to her unending, waking nightmare. Is there any pain greater than a solitude you are forced to create yourself, again and again? But the gods were not yet finished with her. They sent a new champion, a hero armed with their own divine gifts. Perseus. His quest was not for justice, but for the glory of slaying a monster. And in the shield's reflection, he saw not a threat, but a target, a creature for a moment at peace. And so the hero, in the name of glory, raised his divine sword to strike down the sleeping girl. Her tragic story would end not with a roar, but with a final, quiet drop. There was no final struggle, no monstrous roar, just the cold, quiet sound of steel finding its mark. The hero had his trophy, the monster was dead, and the gods were pleased with their champion. Yet even in death, her body was not her own. From her divine blood, beauty was born, a final cruel irony. Her pain became his power. Her curse became his weapon. Her tragedy became his legend. And in the end, her face was immortalized on the shield of the very goddess who had destroyed her, an eternal warning. A warning against whom? Was she the monster? Or was she the one who was monstrously wronged?